The bus hissed to a stop in the late afternoon heat. Eli noticed her immediately, too young to be alone, too carefully braced, eyes fixed on the door like escape might disappear if she hesitated. She moved like someone who'd memorized limits, not choices. Across town, her mother believed she was safe. Eli didn't ask why she was running. He asked if she was hurting, and that was the moment everything changed. Eli Turner woke before the alarm, the way he always did. Not because he needed to, because his knee decided for him. The room was dim, washed in that pale blue light just before sunrise, the kind that makes everything feel unfinished. He sat on the edge of the bed, bare feet flat against the cold floor, breathing slowly while the ache settled into something manageable. Outside, a delivery truck downshifted too hard. Somewhere upstairs, a radiator knocked once and went quiet. He stood anyway. In the kitchen, the coffee maker gurgled and spat. Eli leaned against the counter while it worked, palm pressed flat against the laminate, waiting for the sharp edge of pain to dull. He didn't rush it. Rushing only made things worse. Lunch came next. Bread, peanut butter, sliced apples lay out in a neat line. He cut the sandwich straight down the middle, wiped the blade clean before setting it back. A folded note slipped into the bag last. 3 words, written small. His daughter padded in, socks mismatched, hair flattened on one side from sleep. She yawned and leaned into him without asking. Eli rested his chin lightly against the top of her head, just long enough. When he knelt to tie her shoes, he paused, fingers hovering, watching her face. Too tight made her toes ache. He loosened the knot and retied it slower. Outside, the morning air was cool and damp. The sidewalk still held yesterday's rain, dark patches clinging to cracks. Eli walked her to the corner, backpack bouncing against her shoulders. He waited until the crossing signal chirped before stepping off the curb, even though the street was empty. Habits were promises you kept when no one was watching. At work, the bus depot smelled like oil and warm metal. Eli checked ramps and rails with the same quiet focus he used at home. He crouched, stood, crouched again, pressed the lift button, listened. The motor hesitated, just a fraction too long. He marked it down. Someone else would have waved it off. Eli tightened a bolt, wiped his hands on a rag already stained beyond saving. He didn't talk much, didn't need to. He noticed things, the way a ramp dipped unevenly, the way drivers sighed when schedules slipped, the way people treated accessibility like an inconvenience until it wasn't. Pain followed him through the day like a shadow. He adjusted his stance, shifted weight, took the stairs more slowly than before. On the ride home, he stood near the front of the bus, one hand wrapped around the rail. The city slid past in fragments, storefront glass, puddles trembling under passing tires, a man arguing with no one at all. Conversations floated and disappeared. Phones glowed. People moved like they were late for something important. Eli watched instead. He watched a woman grip her purse too tightly when the bus lurched. A teenager bounced his knee until the seat shook. An older man hesitates before standing, waiting for someone to notice. Most days passed like that, observed, unremarkable, safe. Then the bus slowed again. The doors folded open with a familiar hiss. And when she stepped inside, braced too carefully, eyes fixed forward like she'd practiced not looking back, Eli felt something shift. Not an alarm, recognition. Some people didn't belong where they were, and he had learned the hard way not to ignore that feeling.
Enjoying the story so far? Whether you're listening while trying to catch some sleep, getting through your chores, or just taking a quiet moment for yourself, we're glad you're here. Take a minute and tell us where you're watching from in the comments, and stay with us for more stories like this.
Clara Hayes chose the seat near the back, just past the bend where the bus sighed and groaned like it was tired of carrying people. She liked it there. Fewer eyes, less expectation. The window beside her was smudged with fingerprints and old rain, the city outside smeared into moving color. For the first time that day, no one hovered. No aide leaned in to ask if she needed adjusting. No driver checked a clipboard. No voice reminded her to sit straight. The bus didn't care who she was. Her braces caught faintly against the metal edge of the seat as she shifted. The sound made her flinch. She adjusted again, slower this time, jaw tight, breath held until the ache dulled into something she could carry. She'd learned that trick early. Move like nothing hurts and people stop asking questions. The hum of the engine filled the space around her. It wasn't quiet exactly, but it was uninterrupted. Clara watched a woman argue softly into her phone. A man doze with his mouth open. A kid press his forehead to the glass, fog blooming and fading with every breath. No one looked at her longer than a second. Anonymity felt strange, heavy, relieving. She let her shoulders drop, just a little, felt the pull in her back protest, then settle. The bus lurched over a pothole, and pain sparked sharp and fast, a white line across her thigh. Her fingers dug into the strap of her bag. She didn't cry out. She never did. A stop passed, then another. Up front, Eli stood without meaning to watch her. He noticed the way she boarded, how she waited a beat longer than necessary, how her weight shifted wrong before the bus even moved. He noticed how she didn't look around for anyone after she sat. Most kids her age filled space without thinking. She folded into it like she'd learned to stay small. The bus hit a stretch of uneven road. Clara's breath hitched, not loud, just enough. She adjusted her brace again, the motion careful, rehearsed. Pain flashed across her face and vanished just as quickly, replaced by something neutral, something practiced. Eli's grip tightened on the rail. She wasn't panicking, that was the thing. Panic came with noise, with eyes darting, hands shaking. This was different. This was endurance, the kind that came from knowing help usually made things worse, not better. Clara leaned her head back against the window. The glass was cool through her hair. Outside, a line of trees blurred past, their shadows flickering across her face like passing thoughts. She counted stops without meaning to. Missed one, missed another. Freedom didn't feel loud. It felt thin, like a line you could step over if you weren't careful. Eli watched the way she scanned each stop, not for landmarks, but for exits. The way her shoulders tensed when the doors opened, then eased when they closed again. He noticed the way she held herself, not like someone waiting to arrive, but like someone measuring distance from where she'd left. He didn't move toward her, didn't speak. He waited. The bus slowed, doors opened, a rush of cold air swept through, lifting the smell of rain and asphalt. Clara flinched again, sharper this time. Her hand slipped on the brace. Pain crossed her face before she could catch it. Eli saw it, clear as day. Not discomfort, decision. She wasn't just uncomfortable. She was running from something, and she didn't know where she was supposed to land.
Clara learned early that someone was always watching. At home, cameras blinked quietly from corners she tried not to notice. Hallways were wide enough for equipment, narrow enough to feel guided. Her schedule lived on a tablet that chimed before she finished one task and nudged her toward the next. Medication, stretching, rest, repeat. Love arrived on time. It just never left. Her mother stood too close when Clara brushed her teeth, ready to steady a shoulder that didn't ask. Hands hovered near her back on the stairs. Questions came before feelings had time to form. Does it hurt? Are you okay? Should we stop? The questions stacked until answers didn't matter. Doctors spoke in even tones, eyes flicking to charts. Pain was described as weather, expected, manageable, seasonal. Some discomfort is normal, they said, smiling gently, as if normal meant acceptable. Clara nodded because nodding moved things along.
She learned to make pain quiet, not invisible, just polite. At school, aides anticipated needs before Clara could name them. Chairs were adjusted without asking, doors opened before she reached for them. Teachers praised her strength, which felt like another rule she had to follow. Strong girls didn't complain. Strong girls didn't take up space. So she learned endurance instead. Endurance meant breathing through the burn until it blurred. It meant finding the angle where the ache softened. It meant counting, 3 breaths, then 5, then 10, until the moment passed. Endurance meant smiling so people wouldn't worry. At home, worry was constant. Her mother's voice stayed calm, clipped, efficient. Every decision arrived wrapped in reasons: safety, liability, risk. Clara understood those words better than most adults. They shaped her life like walls. She wasn't angry about it. That was the strange part. She loved her mother, loved the way she memorized doctors' names, the way she never missed an appointment, the way she fought systems that tried to cut corners. That love made the walls harder to push against. Leaving didn't come from defiance. It came from quiet. That morning when Clara slipped out during a shift change, when routines overlapped just enough, her heart didn't race, her hands didn't shake. She packed nothing but her phone and a bus pass she'd hidden for weeks. She didn't know where she was going, she just knew where she couldn't stay. On the bus, the ache in her leg pulsed with each turn. She shifted, winced, breathed. Around her, strangers lived entire lives without noticing her. The freedom of that pressed against her ribs, tender and frightening. She thought of her mother's face when she'd realized Clara was gone. The tight mouth, the quick calculations, the fear that never showed itself outright. That fear lived in Clara too, passed down like an heirloom. Fear of falling, fear of failing, fear of pain becoming proof. As the bus rattled forward, Clara felt the cost of all that protection settle heavier than the brace around her leg. The pain she carried wasn't just in her body, it was in the rules she'd learned to obey without question. She stared at the window and watched the city slide past, knowing she would have to turn back. But not yet. She needed one thing first: to know what it felt like to choose. Would you have left if this were your life, or stayed quiet because staying felt safer? Tell me in the comments.
Eli didn't speak the moment he noticed her. He let the bus roll through 2 more stops, letting the rhythm of it settle back into something steady. The engine's low hum filled the space between them. The overhead lights flickered once, then held. He stayed where he was, one hand wrapped around the rail, body angled just enough that he could see her without staring. Clara sat stiff, like she was holding herself together by force. Her leg was positioned too carefully, the brace locked in place as if movement itself might betray her. When the bus swayed, she inhaled sharply, then smoothed her face before anyone could notice. Eli noticed anyway. When he finally spoke, it wasn't sudden. It slipped into the space as it belonged there. Does it hurt more when you're sitting still, or when the bus turns? The question startled her, not because it crossed a line, but because it didn't. Adults usually ask questions that lead somewhere they'd already decided. This one didn't. She hesitated, eyes flicking to the door, then back to the floor. "When it turns," she said. Eli nodded once. No approval, recognition. "That makes sense," he replied. "Your brace is stabilizing the joint, but your muscles are fighting it. You're holding yourself tight to stay in control." She frowned slightly. No one had ever explained it that way. Pain was usually framed as a malfunction, something unfortunate but unavoidable. This felt different, like a conversation instead of a verdict. The bus hit a shallow pothole. Clara's fingers dug into the strap of her bag. Her breath stuttered. Eli shifted his stance instinctively, widening his feet so his weight absorbed more of the movement. He didn't touch her, didn't reach out, but his body blocked some of the sway. The pain eased a fraction. "You don't have to answer this," he said, still calm, "but I'm guessing you didn't get on this bus for fun." She didn't respond right away. Her jaw tightened, the muscle jump once before she forced it still. "I just needed space," she said finally. "Space from what?" She swallowed. "From being watched." The word landed between them, heavy and honest. Eli exhaled slowly, careful not to rush the moment. Being watched can feel like being protected until it starts to feel like you don't belong to yourself anymore. Clara looked up then, eyes sharp, searching his face for the catch. There wasn't one. No lecture, no warning sirens. "My mom says it's for my own good," she said, not accusing, just tired. "I believe her, but safety without choice can still hurt you." The bus slowed as it approached another stop. Doors opened, cold air rushed in, carrying the smell of rain and wet concrete. A few people stepped off. Someone stepped on. No one paid attention to them. Clara felt something twist in her chest. Hope, maybe, or fear wearing a better mask. Eli continued, still calm. "If I help you, it won't be by helping you disappear. I won't do that." Her shoulders stiffened. She'd expected this part, the boundary, the rule. "But," he added, "I can help you understand what your body's asking for. I can show you how to work with it instead of fighting it, and I can do that without taking control away from you." She studied him. The steady way he stood, the careful distance, the absence of urgency. "And then?" she asked. "Then you go home," he said gently, "because leaving without a plan just hands your power to someone else." The bus pulled away from the curb. Clara stared at her hands, then nodded once, small, decisive. Eli straightened slightly. "After school," he said, like it was an afterthought. "Public place. We talk, I show you a few things, nothing more." Clara felt her chest loosen just a little. She hadn't expected help. She'd expected rescue or punishment. This was neither, and somehow that made all the difference. The first time Clara met Eli after school, she told herself it wasn't a secret. Not really. Her driver knew. That mattered. He parked across the street from the small public park like he always did, engine idling, eyes forward. He didn't ask questions, just nodded once when Clara said she'd be 20 minutes. He'd been with her long enough to recognize a boundary when he saw one. Eli was already there, seated on a low concrete wall near the basketball courts. Kids shouted somewhere nearby. A ball slapped pavement in a steady rhythm. The air smelled like cut grass and hot asphalt. Neutral ground, nothing hidden. Clara approached slowly, braces clicking softly with each step. Eli stood, careful not to move too fast, and waited for her to close the distance. "You made it," he said. "Are you okay? No one saw you?" She nodded. They didn't sit right away. Eli watched how she stood, how she leaned more heavily on one side, how her shoulders crept upward as if bracing for something unseen. He didn't correct her. He let her body finish speaking first. "Before we do anything," he said, "tell me where it hurts today." She hesitated, then surprised herself by answering. "Here," she said, touching the side of her thigh, "and my lower back. It feels tight, like it won't let go." Eli nodded. "That's guarding," he said. "Your body's trying to protect you before pain shows up." He asked before touching. "Always." When she agreed, his hands were steady, precise. He adjusted her stance by inches, not feet, asked her to breathe in through her nose, out through her mouth, slow. Counted with her until the tightness eased just enough to notice. "That pressure," he said, "isn't weakness,
it's information. No one had ever framed it that way. They worked in short intervals, pause, breathe, adjust. Eli showed her how to shift weight before standing, how to notice the first whisper of pain instead of waiting for it to shout. He didn't push her limits, he taught her where they actually were. When she sat, her posture changed without instruction, less rigid, more balanced. Her breath settled lower, deeper. "You look different," the driver said later when she climbed back into the car. Clara didn't answer. She was too busy noticing it herself. The meetings continued, never long, never hidden, always in public spaces, parks, community centers, quiet corners where life moved on around them. Eli set boundaries that Clara didn't have to guess at, time limits, clear goals, no surprises. With each session, something shifted. Her steps grew surer, her pauses shorter, her eyes lifted more often instead of tracking the ground. At home, she caught herself standing taller in the kitchen, leaning against the counter without wincing. She laughed once, out loud, when her mother teased her about leaving dishes in the sink. The sound surprised them both. Victoria noticed the changes before she understood them. Clara moved differently through rooms. She asked questions instead of waiting for instructions. She spoke with a steadiness that hadn't been there before. Nothing dramatic, nothing loud, just visible. One afternoon, as Clara stood by the window waiting for the car, she realized something that made her chest tighten in a new way. She wasn't counting the minutes until she could leave. For the first time in a long while, her body felt like something she lived in, not something she managed, and that was impossible to hide. Victoria Hayes noticed the change in the quiet moments first, not during appointments, not during checklists or reports. It was in the in-between. Clara stood at the kitchen counter one morning, weight settled evenly instead of braced, humming under her breath while she waited for the kettle to boil. No grimace, no request to sit. When Victoria reached out on instinct, ready to steady her, Clara shifted just slightly, enough to say, "I've got this," without saying it at all. That unsettled her. Pain, Victoria understood. Pain had rules. Pain came with protocols and specialists and charts that explained what came next. Pain could be planned around. Joy had no guardrails. At breakfast, Clara spoke more, not faster, clearer. She met her mother's eyes when she talked. When Victoria corrected her posture out of habit, Clara adjusted, but then adjusted again, differently, more naturally. Victoria watched, coffee cooling untouched in her hand. At the next appointment, the doctor noted improved mobility, wrote it down like a minor footnote. Victoria nodded, polite, composed. Inside, something tightened. Improvements didn't happen without intervention. They didn't arrive quietly. That evening, Clara laughed. It was quick, unpracticed. The sound startled Victoria enough that she looked up from her phone, heart jumping. Clara froze for a second, like she'd broken a rule, then kept going. That laugh followed Victoria into the night. She lay awake later, staring at the ceiling, replaying details she might have missed. The way Clara moved through doorways, the way she answered questions was without checking for approval, the way she seemed lighter. Lighter was dangerous. Victoria had built her life on anticipation, on seeing risks before they formed. Losing that edge felt like stepping into traffic blindfolded. So she did what she always did when something didn't make sense. She investigated, not with anger, with precision. She checked schedules, transport logs, security footage, not invasive, just enough. She spoke casually to the driver, asking about traffic, about school pickup times. Listened more than she talked. The driver hesitated once, just once. That was enough. Victoria followed the thread quietly. No confrontation, no assumptions. She waited until Clara left the room one afternoon, then asked a question that sounded harmless. "Who's Eli?" Clara paused, just a beat too long.
Victoria felt the ground shift under her feet. That name echoed somewhere deep and unexpected. She hadn't heard it in years, but it landed with the weight of recognition. A boy with scuffed sneakers who used to wait for her at the bus stop. A voice that always said, "You go first." Someone she hadn't thought about since ambition carried her far from the neighborhood they shared. Memory stirred, unwelcome and warm. Victoria's chest tightened, not with jealousy, not with rage, but with something closer to fear. Fear of losing control, fear of having missed something important while she was busy protecting. That night, she watched Clara from the doorway as her daughter stretched before bed, movements careful but confident. No flinch, no apology for taking space. Whatever was happening, it was working, and that terrified her. Because it meant the system she trusted hadn't been enough. Because it meant someone else had seen her daughter in a way she hadn't allowed herself to. Victoria reached for her phone, then stopped. She didn't call a lawyer, didn't alert security. She decided to see him for herself. And as the name settled more fully in her mind, the truth surfaced quietly but unmistakably. She didn't just know him, she had once trusted him too. If you were a parent, would this frighten you, or would it make you curious enough to listen? Tell me what you'd do. Victoria didn't arrive angry. That surprised her. She parked across the street from the park and sat with the engine off, hands resting lightly on the steering wheel. The late afternoon sun slanted low, throwing long shadows across the pavement. Children's voices drifted from the playground. Somewhere, a basketball thudded against concrete. Normal sounds, ordinary life. Eli stood near the same low wall as before, talking with Clara. He wasn't touching her. He never did unless she asked. Victoria noticed that immediately, the space he left, the way he angled his body so Clara wasn't cornered. It irritated her more than if he'd crossed a line. She stepped out of the car. Eli saw her before Clara did. His posture changed, not defensive, not rigid, just still, like someone recognizing a moment he couldn't avoid. "Eli," Victoria said. He turned fully now, eyes narrowing slightly as recognition settled in. It took a second, then another. "Vicky," he replied, the old nickname slipping out before he could stop it. The air between them tightened. Years fell away in fragments, a cracked sidewalk, a shared backpack, waiting at a bus stop while rain soaked through cheap sneakers. He remembered how she'd always been in a hurry, even then. She remembered how he'd never been. "I was wondering when you'd come," Eli said quietly. Victoria's jaw set. "You shouldn't have been seeing my daughter." The words were controlled, measured. Each one is chosen carefully. Clara shifted beside him, breath catching. Eli noticed immediately. He glanced at her, then back at Victoria. "I didn't go looking for her, and I didn't hide." "You didn't tell me," Victoria countered. "No," he agreed, "I didn't." The admission landed harder than an excuse would have. Victoria looked past him, really looked at the lines time had etched into his face, the careful way he held his weight, the familiarity that stirred something long buried. "You always did this," she said quietly. "Waited, watched, letting people decide." Eli met her gaze. "You always ran ahead," he replied, "afraid if you slowed down you'd get stuck." Something flickered in her expression. Pain, memory, regret she hadn't named. "I protected her," Victoria said. "Everything I did was to keep her safe." "I know," Eli answered, "but safety isn't the same as trust." Clara stepped forward then, just one pace. It felt enormous. "I don't want to disappear. I just want to be part of my own life." Victoria's breath caught. In that moment, the balance shifted, not dramatically, not loudly, but irrevocably. She stood at a crossroads she'd avoided for years, between fear that had kept her daughter alive and faith that might finally let her live. And the choice was hers to make.
Victoria didn't change everything at once. That wasn't her way. Trust, to her, had always been something you earned in increments, measured, tested, reviewed. Letting go didn't look like freedom, it looked like negligence. And yet, standing in that park, watching Clara breathe without bracing for permission, she understood something she hadn't allowed herself to before. Control had kept her daughter alive, but it hadn't let her live. The first change was small. Victoria stopped hovering at the top of the stairs. She watched from the kitchen instead, fingers tight around her mug, heart racing as Clara descended one step at a time. When Clara reached the bottom without looking back, Victoria didn't rush in. She swallowed the instinct and stayed where she was. Nothing happened. The second change was harder. She adjusted schedules, not erased them, rearranged. Therapy sessions became collaborative instead of mandatory. Doctors were still consulted, but Clara was asked first how her body felt before charts were opened. When Clara asked to keep meeting Eli, Victoria said yes, without conditions, but with clarity. Public spaces, clear timing, transparency. Eli agreed immediately. In fact, he did something Victoria didn't expect. He stepped back. He shortened sessions, redirected questions back to Clara. When she looked to him for answers, he asked what she thought instead. He refused the role of expert, refused to replace one authority with another. "I'm not the point," he said once when Victoria pressed him. "She is." Clara noticed the difference. She carried herself differently now, not fearless, but grounded. She learned when to rest and when to push, learned that stopping wasn't failing, learned that pain didn't have to be hidden to be respected. Some days were still hard. There were mornings when her body refused cooperation, when frustration cracked through her calm. Victoria watched those moments carefully, fighting the urge to tighten the reins again. Sometimes she failed. Sometimes she apologized. They kept going. Eli returned to his routines, early mornings, inspections, quiet bus rides. He didn't linger, didn't insert himself into their family space. When Clara waved at him from across the street, he waved back and kept walking. That distance mattered. It kept what he'd given them clean. Weeks passed, then months. At school, teachers noticed Clara speaking up. At appointments, doctors adjusted expectations upward, cautious but encouraged. Victoria noticed something else, something she hadn't prepared for. She felt lighter too. Fear didn't vanish. It never does. It followed her like a shadow, whispering what-ifs late at night. But it no longer made every decision for her. She learned to sit with it, to listen without obeying. One afternoon, Victoria watched Clara board a bus, supervised, yes, but unaccompanied. Clara turned, met her mother's eyes through the glass, and smiled, not asking, just sharing. The doors closed, the bus pulled away. Victoria stayed where she was, hands trembling slightly, breath uneven. And then, she smiled back. Across town, Eli tightened a loose bolt on a ramp and moved on to the next check. Another small correction, another quiet fix. He didn't know who might need it later. He just made sure it worked. Change rarely announces itself. Sometimes it moves like that, through loosened hands, steadier breath, and choices that ripple outward, touching lives that will never know where it started. The bus came on time. That alone felt different. Clara stood at the stop with her backpack resting evenly against her shoulders, weight balanced, one foot slightly forward the way Eli had taught her. Not rigid, not cautious, just aware. The morning air was cool, carrying the smell of damp concrete and leaves pressed flat by yesterday's rain. Traffic hummed past in steady waves. She wasn't alone, but she wasn't surrounded either. Victoria stood a few steps back, hands folded loosely in front of her, resisting the instinct to close the distance. She watched her daughter the way you watch someone crossing a river on their own, ready but not reaching. Clara checked the street, listened, stepped forward when the light changed. No hesitation. When the bus doors folded open with their familiar hiss, Clara boarded without looking back. She tapped her pass, found a seat near the window, and adjusted her brace with a small, practiced movement. The pain was still there, it always would be, but it no longer led. She looked out the window as the bus pulled away, the city unfolding in pieces she recognized now, not as obstacles, but as part of her life. Across town, Eli finished his shift the same way he always did. He wiped his hands on a rag and signed his name at the bottom of a form no one would read closely. The depot echoed with engines cooling, metal ticking as it settled. He moved carefully, knee stiff but steady, and stepped outside into the late afternoon light. Nothing about his day would make the news. He stopped at the corner store for milk, waited patiently while the cashier counted change twice, held the door for a woman juggling 2 kids in a stroller. Small adjustments, quiet choices. On his walk home, a bus passed him, windows catching the sun. For a moment, he thought he saw Clara's reflection in the glass, upright, calm, but the bus moved on before he could be sure. He smiled anyway. At home, Victoria stood at the window as the house filled with the soft sounds of evening. Clara's laughter drifted down the hallway, unforced, warm. Victoria didn't correct her posture, didn't remind her of tomorrow's schedule. She let the sound exist without managing it. Fear still whispered, it probably always would, but it no longer spoke the loudest. Later, when the city settled into its quieter rhythms, another bus rolled through the neighborhood. Its headlights washed briefly across the walls, then passed. The sound faded, leaving a stillness that didn't feel empty. It felt earned. Some changes announced themselves with noise and certainty. Others arrive gently, almost unnoticed, and stay because they're true. Clara lived in her body now, not around it. Victoria learned to watch without gripping. Eli returned to a life that looked ordinary from the outside, but carried the quiet knowledge that attention, given freely, could shift an entire future. The bus kept running its route. The world kept moving, and in the space where fear once lived, there was room to breathe. Some people don't save you. They remind you that you were never meant to be caged. Sometimes sharing the quiet moments matters most.
Hey you, my fellow story family. Thank you for staying with us till the very end. We'd love to hear how this story made you feel. Would you have done anything differently? What did it teach you? If this story mirrors a season of your own life, feel free to share it with us in the comments. Stay close to this channel for more stories that speak of strength, love, and hope.